The Harmony Nexus hung like a crystalline jewel against the vast darkness of space. Its transparent corridors and gleaming observation decks a testament to the delicate peace between humans and Luminarians. Zara Novik stood at the panoramic window, her reflection a ghost against the starlit backdrop, fingers tracing the edge of her diplomatic insignia. At 32, Zara had built a reputation as a diplomatic negotiator who could navigate the most treacherous political landscapes. Her olive skin and sharp, intelligent eyes spoke of mixed heritage and countless hours of strategic planning. The Interstellar Peacekeeping Corps had invested years in her training, molding her into a diplomat who could read between the lines of interspecies communication. The door to the observation deck slid open with a soft hiss. Curran Ashraf entered, his movements deliberate and graceful. Luminarians were known for their ethereal presence, tall, with skin that seemed to shimmer with an internal luminescence and eyes that reflected depth beyond human comprehension. His silver-toned skin caught the starlight, creating an almost holographic effect that made him appear both present and otherworldly. Delegate Novik, Curran's voice was a melodic resonance that seemed to vibrate with multiple harmonics. The preliminary discussions are scheduled to begin in 30 standard minutes. Zara turned her professional mask firmly in place. Delegate Ashraf, I trust the Luminarian delegation has reviewed the proposed trade agreement. A slight smile played at the corner of Curran's mouth, a gesture that both intrigued and unsettled Zara. Luminarian expressions were notoriously difficult to read, often carrying layers of meaning that human diplomats struggled to interpret. Review is perhaps too mild a word, Curran responded, moving closer to the window. Our council has extensively analyzed every clause, every potential implication. The tension between them was palpable, a complex mixture of professional respect and something more indefinable. The Harmony Nexus had been established 5 years ago as a neutral ground where humans and Luminarians could negotiate, collaborate, and maintain the fragile peace that existed between their civilizations. Zara knew the stakes were astronomical. Mineral-rich planets, strategic trade routes, and the prevention of potential conflict hung in the balance of their negotiations. The Luminarian race possessed technological capabilities far beyond human understanding, yet they remained selective about sharing their advanced knowledge. The resource exchange proposal, Zara began, pulling up a holographic display from her wrist communicator, requires careful consideration. Our geological surveys of the Epsilon Quadrant. Curran interrupted, a rare breach of Luminarian diplomatic protocol. Surveys can be misleading, Delegate Novik. Data is not truth, it is merely a representation of observed phenomena. Something in his tone made Zara pause. There was a depth to his statement that suggested more than a simple diplomatic disagreement. Her training had taught her to recognize when something remained unspoken, when layers of meaning existed beneath formal conversation. Is there something specific concerning you about our survey data? She asked, her voice carefully modulated. Curran's gaze shifted, momentarily looking beyond the window into the infinite expanse of space. Perception is a delicate construct. What humans see as resources, we view as living ecosystems. Each mineral deposit, each potential excavation site, represents a complex network of interdependent life forms. The philosophical depth of his statement caught Zara off guard. Luminarian diplomacy was renowned for its complexity, but this felt different. There was a personal investment in his words, something that transcended standard diplomatic discourse. Their moment of intense connection was interrupted by a communication alert. The first formal meeting of the diplomatic session was about to begin, a critical negotiation that could reshape interstellar relationships for decades to come. We should proceed, Curran said, extending his hand in a human gesture of partnership, unusual for a Luminarian who typically maintained strict physical distance during diplomatic interactions. Zara hesitated for a fraction of a second before accepting his hand. The moment their skin made contact, something unexpected happened. A subtle electrical charge seemed to pass between them, a connection that felt more profound than a simple physical touch. Neither spoke about the moment, but something had changed. A threshold had been crossed that would alter the course of their diplomatic mission and potentially the relationship between their entire civilizations. As they walked towards the conference chamber, the stars continued their silent vigil, witnessing the beginning of a story that would challenge everything both species believed they knew about connection, boundaries, and the nature of understanding. The research facility orbited a volatile neutron star, its protective shields constantly recalibrating to manage the extreme radiation and gravitational fluctuations. Inside the sterile white laboratories, Lena Rodriguez moved with the precise, calculated movements of a scientist who had long since stopped seeing boundaries between possible and impossible. Her dark curls were pulled back into a tight bun, revealing intense brown eyes that seemed to hold entire universes of curiosity. At 35, Lena had dedicated her entire career to understanding the fundamental differences and potential similarities between human and luminarian biology. Molecular structure doesn't lie, she muttered, adjusting the holographic display that hovered above her primary research terminal. Fragments of genetic sequences danced in three-dimensional complexity, revealing intricate patterns that defied conventional understanding. Terk Voss watched her from the observation room, his luminarian physiology allowing him to perceive wavelengths of information invisible to human sensors. As a high-ranking council member, his presence was both a privilege and a potential threat to Lena's research. The diplomatic tensions that had been simmering since the initial negotiations on the Harmony Nexus had only grown more complex. What had started as a routine scientific exchange now felt like something far more volatile. Your hypothesis challenges everything our scientific councils have established. Terk's voice resonated through the communication system, a melodic undertone suggesting both admiration and concern. Lena didn't turn. She was used to challenges, had built her entire career on pushing against established scientific boundaries. Established knowledge is just a temporary consensus, Delegate Voss. The universe doesn't care about our comfortable narratives. Her latest research suggested something unprecedented, the potential for genetic compatibility between humans and luminarians. Not just theoretical compatibility, but a genuine possibility of biological intersection that could reshape everything both species understood about reproduction, genetics, and interspecies relationships. The implications were staggering. If her preliminary findings were correct, it would challenge fundamental diplomatic, biological, and cultural assumptions that had kept humans and luminarians at a carefully maintained distance for generations. Terk's reflection appeared in the glass, his silver-toned skin creating a ghostly overlay to the complex genetic models Lena was studying. The Council will not receive these findings kindly, he said, a note of warning in his harmonically complex voice. Lena turned, meeting his gaze directly. Scientific truth isn't determined by political comfort, Delegate. These findings could revolutionize our understanding of genetic potential. Her research had begun innocently enough. A comparative study of cellular regeneration capabilities had slowly revealed anomalies that suggested something far more profound. Certain genetic markers showed unexpected plasticity, a potential for adaptation that defied current scientific understanding. You're suggesting more than compatibility, Terk said, moving closer to the holographic display. You're suggesting a fundamental rewriting of what we understand about genetic boundaries. Lena nodded. The molecular structures show potential communication points, genetic bridges that could theoretically allow for not just compatibility, but genuine genetic integration. The research facility itself was a marvel of diplomatic compromise. Funded jointly by human and luminarian scientific councils, it represented the most advanced interspecies research center in known space. Yet the facility felt like a pressure cooker of unspoken tensions, scientific ambition, and potential political dynamite. A sudden alarm interrupted their discussion. The facility's quantum stabilizers began to fluctuate, responding to unprecedented gravitational shifts from the nearby neutron star. Holographic warnings erupted around them, casting the room in urgent crimson light. Gravitational destabilization imminent, the facility's AI announced in a calm, almost disinterested tone. Terk's hand instinctively moved towards Lena, a gesture of protection that transcended the typical diplomatic distance between their species. For a moment, something more than professional courtesy passed between them, a recognition of shared vulnerability in the face of cosmic forces. As emergency protocols initiated, Lena realized her research had uncovered something far more significant than a mere scientific curiosity. She had found a potential bridge between two civilizations, a genetic pathway that could either unite or destroy everything they understood about life, connection, and the boundaries of existence. The neutron star outside pulsed with violent energy. a metaphor for the explosive potential of the discoveries being made within the facility's protective walls. Something fundamental was about to change, and Lena Rodriguez was at the epicenter of a discovery that could reshape the entire galaxy. The holographic war room pulsed with tactical displays, each flickering projection representing potential conflict zones scattered across the galactic frontier. Marcus Reyes stood at the center, his muscular frame tense beneath the streamlined military uniform of the Interstellar Strategic Command. At 40, Marcus carried the weight of decades of interspecies conflict management. His mixed heritage, traces of Brazilian and Korean ancestry visible in his sharp features, made him uniquely suited to navigate the complex political landscapes of interstellar diplomacy. Arya Solarin moved with calculated grace, her luminarian physiology creating a stark contrast to Marcus's human presence. As a cultural attaché, she represented a different kind of strategic weapon, one of understanding, communication, and nuanced negotiation. The situation in the Orion periphery is becoming increasingly volatile, Marcus said, highlighting a cluster of star systems that glowed with warning indicators. Mineral rights, colonial expansion, resource allocation, the same old tensions are resurfacing. Arya's luminescent fingers traced the holographic display, causing the star systems to shift and expand. Conflict is often a failure of imagination, she responded, her voice carrying the multi-harmonic resonance typical of luminarian speech. What humans see as competition, we perceive as an ecosystem of potential collaboration. Their relationship was a delicate dance of professional respect and underlying tension. Marcus represented the military strategic perspective, pragmatic, prepared for conflict, always 3 moves ahead. Arya embodied the luminarian approach, philosophical, seeing connections where others saw only divisions. A classified communication burst interrupted their strategic review. Marcus's neural interface flickered, processing encrypted data streams that painted a complex picture of emerging galactic tensions. The research from the neutron star facility, Marcus said quietly, referencing Lena Rodriguez's controversial genetic studies. It's causing more disruption than anyone anticipated. Arya's response was measured. Scientific truth rarely conforms to political convenience. The holographic displays began to shift, revealing a series of interconnected conflict zones. Planetary disputes, resource conflicts, ideological tensions, the galaxy seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for a spark that could ignite widespread confrontation. Marcus knew the stakes were astronomical. Humanity's expansion into deep space had been both a triumph of technological achievement and a potential source of unprecedented conflict. The Luminarians, with their advanced understanding of cosmic ecosystems, viewed human expansion as a potential threat to delicate interstellar balance. Your people see our colonization as invasion, Marcus said, not as an accusation but as a statement of observed reality. We see it as survival, as progression. Arya's gaze shifted, momentarily looking beyond the tactical displays. Survival and progression are not synonymous with destruction. Each planetary ecosystem is a complex network of interdependent life forms. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert. A series of diplomatic channels were lighting up, warning signs of potential military escalation in the Epsilon Quadrant. Marcus recognized the pattern: resource-rich systems, contested colonial claims, the perfect recipe for interstellar conflict. "We're walking a razor's edge," he muttered, manipulating the holographic displays with practiced movements. Arya moved closer, her luminescent skin creating subtle light patterns that seemed to interact with the tactical displays. For a moment, their proximity suggested something more than professional collaboration, a connection that transcended the typical boundaries between their species. A quantum communication burst carried encrypted data that made Marcus's neural interface pulse with warning signals. Something was happening, something that went beyond standard diplomatic or military protocols. "The genetic research," Arya said suddenly, her tone carrying a weight of understanding that caught Marcus off guard, "it's more than just scientific curiosity. It's a potential bridge." Marcus looked at her, recognition dawning. The studies Lena Rodriguez had been conducting weren't just about biological compatibility. They represented a fundamental challenge to how humans and luminarians understood themselves, their potential for connection, their very nature of existence. Outside the Strategic Command Center, stars continued their silent rotation. Galaxies spun in their cosmic dance, indifferent to the complex political maneuvers being plotted within this small, pressurized room. Something was coming, a transformation, a convergence that would challenge everything they thought they knew about species, boundaries, and the nature of connection itself. The research facility's containment chamber hummed with an otherworldly energy. Dr. Imani Oak stood before a series of holographic displays, her dark skin reflecting the soft blue light of advanced scientific equipment. Decades of xenobiological research had prepared her for groundbreaking discoveries, but nothing could have prepared her for what she was about to reveal. Kai Winters paced behind her, his political strategist's mind racing with the implications of her findings. "You understand what this means?" he asked, his voice a mixture of excitement and barely contained anxiety. Imani nodded, her fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "The genetic markers we've discovered aren't just a scientific anomaly. They're a bridge, a potential pathway of biological communication between humans and luminarians that defies everything we've previously understood." The research they'd been conducting was the culmination of years of secret investigations, building upon the earlier work of Lena Rodriguez. What had started as a theoretical exploration of interspecies genetic compatibility had transformed into something far more profound. "The Council cannot know about this," Kai said, his voice dropping to a whisper, "if they understand the full extent of what you've discovered." "The truth doesn't bend to political convenience," Imani interrupted, her tone resolute. "These genetic markers suggest more than just compatibility. They suggest a fundamental reimagining of what we consider possible between different species." The research facility was located in a remote sector, carefully isolated from both human and luminarian monitoring systems. It was a neutral ground, a place of pure scientific exploration that existed beyond political boundaries. Kai moved closer to the holographic displays, studying the intricate genetic sequences that seemed to dance and intertwine in complex patterns. "It's like they're speaking a language," he muttered. "A genetic language we've never been able to comprehend before." Imani's latest findings built upon the earlier work of Lena Rodriguez. The genetic research suggested something revolutionary, not just the possibility of biological compatibility, but a potential for genuine genetic communication between humans and luminarians. "Look here," she said, highlighting a specific sequence. "These marker points aren't just similar, they're actively communicative. It's as if the genetic structures are designed to reach out to find common ground." The implications were staggering. If true, this could mean more than just biological compatibility. It suggested a fundamental connection that went beyond physical reproduction, a potential for genuine interspecies understanding at the most fundamental level of existence. A sudden alert interrupted their discussion. The facility's quantum shielding began to fluctuate, responding to some unseen external pressure. "We're not alone," Kai said, his hand moving instinctively to a concealed communication device. Imani's response was calm, almost anticipatory. "They've been watching, waiting, this discovery was inevitable." The facility's walls seemed to pulse with an energy that went beyond standard technological capabilities. Something was coming, a convergence that would challenge everything both species understood about themselves, about connection, about the very nature of life itself. As external sensors began to register approaching vessels, Imani and Kai exchanged a look of mutual understanding. The truth they'd uncovered was about to change everything. The Galactic Convergence Summit was unlike any diplomatic meeting in known history. Suspended in the neutral space between human and luminarian territories, the conference center seemed to exist in a realm beyond traditional political boundaries. Zara Novik and Curran Ashraf stood at the center of the diplomatic chamber, their presence a testament to the complex journey that had brought both species to this moment. Around them, representatives from multiple planetary systems watched with a mixture of anticipation and trepidation. Dr. Imani Oak's research had changed everything. "The genetic findings challenge our fundamental understanding of species boundaries," Zara announced, her voice steady despite the revolutionary nature of her statement. "What we once considered impossible is now our new reality." Curran stepped forward, his luminescent form creating a stark contrast to the human delegates. Separation was never our true nature, he responded, his multi-harmonic voice resonating through the chamber. Connection has always been the underlying truth. The summit had been called in response to the groundbreaking research that suggested humans and luminarians were not just potentially compatible, but fundamentally connected at a genetic level. What had begun as a diplomatic mission, continued through scientific exploration, had transformed into something far more profound. Marcus Reyes, now serving as a key strategic advisor, stood at the periphery of the diplomatic chamber. Beside him, Arya Solarin watched the proceedings with a sense of quiet anticipation. Their own journey had been part of this larger narrative of understanding and connection. Lena Rodriguez's initial research, which had seemed so controversial, now appeared prophetic. The genetic bridges she had first identified were now understood as a fundamental pathway of interspecies communication. "We are not conquering," Zara continued, "we are connecting." The holographic displays around the chamber began to show the intricate genetic sequences, no longer seen as alien or incompatible, but as a complex language of potential. Lines of genetic code danced and intertwined, revealing a beauty that transcended species boundaries. Kai Winters, who had been instrumental in protecting and advancing the research, stepped forward. "This is more than a scientific discovery," he said. "This is a redefinition of what it means to be alive, to be connected." The chamber fell silent. Generations of separation, of careful diplomatic distance, of potential conflict, all seemed to dissolve in this moment of profound understanding. Curran moved closer to Zara, a gesture that would have been unthinkable mere years ago. Their proximity was a physical manifestation of the genetic bridges that had been discovered, a living testament to the possibility of connection. "We are not two species," Curran said softly, loud enough for the entire chamber to hear. "We are different expressions of the same fundamental potential for life." Outside the conference center, stars continued their ancient dance. Galaxies spun in their cosmic rotation, indifferent to the momentous shift happening within this small, pressurized space. But everything had changed. The boundaries between humans and luminarians, between what was possible and impossible, had been irrevocably transformed. A new chapter of existence had begun.